Right then, another TT video, and as with most videos that Paul is starring in, he started it before we started filming it. Paul's ripping all the wiring out, and this is pretty much, there's still a couple of bits to come out of this because we're not sure on what we're taking out of the doors, which is the next thing, because obviously we've still got the window mechanism and the standard windows in, and obviously if you've got a pillarless door on your car, you'll know that when you shut the door it just goes up probably 10-15 millimeters, and that's what seals your door in, seals your window in. But if we're putting the plastic windows in, we're hoping to get rid of that so we can take all this crap out. We'll take the door cards out, get rid of all that stuff and actually put something proper on it. 'Cause I know why they've done it like this, but it looks crap. So we'll sort that out. But obviously once the window motor's gone and this module's gone, you can just put a flat plate in and away you go. So once Paul's took that out, we should be all right. There's that much to talk about, it might not make any sense. So at the minute, that's the passenger seat, that's not going back in for a bit. This is the wiring that is taken away completely, which is still more to come out, so we'll weigh that at the end and see how much of that we get out, which it's not going to be tons, but it'll not be too bad. And then this centre console, we're going to get rid of this, and this, oh God, it weighs lots. We'll weigh it and put up how much it weighs on screen, but we're also taking out the full heater matrix, which I'll try and, again, it weighs a lot, I'll put how much that weighs, but the main thing, you see bits of glass and stuff, there's all these rattling noises which I could hear when I was driving it, so hopefully that all stops. We're going to replace that with a little motor, we've not got it yet, but it's coming. Same as what's on the Golf, just literally a little motor that just blows two things to do the side windows, because the screen is going to be replaced with a heated screen anyway, so we'll sort that out. So two decent things to get rid of. And then this battery isolator set, which is an Armtec one, which we've never used one of these before, but apparently these are a little bit more robust than the Cartec ones, which they look it, and they've got a lot of wires going to them, so hopefully they are. But that meant all this wiring was still in, which this looks like it were added extra from the alternator all the way to the back. And then this one looks factory, not 100% sure, but it looks it. This went to the fuse box and then all the way to the back as well. And there's still the main power cable that goes underneath the car. It's like a flat red one that's sort of part of the car that we're going to take out, which will be quite heavy as well. I think we're going to move the battery further forward. The weight distribution was pretty good where it was, but we can get that a little bit more with ride heights and stuff like that. So we'll just put the weight into the centre of the car and not give us any problems. And if we can get less weight, it doesn't matter where it is really. Put some lead if you want to move it around. So yeah, the wiring, this is the part of the race car, project car stuff that a lot of people either overlook, or it's that boring, they don't do it, or in this case, it's that much of a pain. You don't want to film it because you don't know which part to film. So Paul's going to try and do his best to get everything out and see what we can do. But some little funny things about it. This is quite heavy as well, which would be nice to get rid of. But if you unplug this, this is for the, it goes on the steering column, and that's the steering lock pin. So obviously when the steering lock comes on, that's that. If you unplug that, nothing works. Same with the clocks. If you unplug the clocks, if you watched earlier, we'll just put that clip in. Me and Paul were in there doing some mocking up. Car manufacturers spend like 10 years doing this stuff.
Yeah, we do it like a day.
Yeah. Oh, what a day. Like where I am now, I can see all that, I just can't see that aim bit.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I'll probably, to be fair, I'll make it so it can go a bit lower than that. I might make a bracket with some slots in.
We have to do it dash together, you have to chop it half or just not?
No, basically, I've chopped it in half there, and then I can get a ratchet strap underneath it and I fold it in half. And get it out. But I've made it now, I've chopped dash it a little bit more, so you can't actually get it in and out without going that extreme.
Yeah, that'll do. So yeah, we want to swap, that bit's can stay.
Yeah.
We swap that and that for that other four.
Yeah.
Because I'm not actually, to be fair, you could leave that one.
Yeah.
It'll do.
Ah!
Great success. So when we're doing that, if you unplug the clocks, nothing works, you can't get any communication. So it's not a case of just unplugging it and deleting some immobilizers like it is on the earlier stuff. Like even the KTM that we used to have, it had one of these stashed up the back somewhere because even KTM didn't manage to code these out, so I'm not sure whether it's possible or not. If somebody can tell me, we'll put a picture up of what this part number is. If we can get rid of this, awesome. So Paul at the minute's just digging through the rest of this wiring, which we've always wondered what this was. These wires here that just left dangling, obviously not covered up, so we'd assume there were no power going to them. And we think we've figured it out because it's still here, isn't it? That this is the throttle pedal wiring. So if you look, that's repair wires. So there'll be some joints under there as well, which we need to inspect. But that is the original throttle pedal wiring. So we're assuming there's a break in here somewhere, and I don't think it's on this bit, but there's been a few little points because these cars were done in a bit of a rush and none of the wiring, and the dash has never been out either, has it, Paul?
Not any time recently anyway.
Yeah, it's not completely been out and been back in though, has it? So when these cages were put in, the dash were probably still in, which means most of the wiring will have probably still been in, which means that somebody at some point melted some bits of wiring. So I think that's likely to be the reason why that's been replaced. I wouldn't have thought it wore out or anything like that. It's only done about 6,000 miles total. So as we were doing before, we're just checking. We've chopped out this bar across here, but we're chopping the bar that the harnesses went to because the seat just didn't go far enough back for our liking. So now we're going to have the harnesses cross them and put them to here. So we've had a quick look and the angle and the height and everything should be pretty good to just go from here. So we're going to move the V-box and send it across there. So that shouldn't take us too long really. What else have we got? We've got the air jacks, which that'll probably end up being a separate video. But while it's all stripped down like this, the air jacks are going to go in, and hopefully, if we get chance to, we'll get all the inside painted again as well, because it's all a little bit messed up. Smarten this up, but this is where it's had a little rear end shunt, which it's aluminium as well, which makes it even worse. So we've got an aluminium pin puller, we've got a TIG welder and stuff like that, so we can repair these. So it's going to take a bit of work. And we've got a new tailgate, because this is absolutely full of crap. So we're going to get that fitted as well, which that's painted and it should be, it'll appear at some point anyway. Yeah, we've not got any spare rear bumpers, so that's one of the things that we're looking for. We'll put an advert up, I'll get Danny to put it up again. about some parts that we want for these spares and stuff to repair things. Just trying to think what else we've got going on. We've got, we're going to do, obviously we said about the door cards. For the wiring, rather than drilling and screwing everything to the bodywork, it's not a big deal for brake pipes, which don't really need to come out, but like for all the wiring, we've seen a few people do it. You get like a little penny washer, squash it in the middle and just put a little bend on it, and then we'll tack that all the way down the bodywork. We're going to put it on the dash bar as well, which that's not really that heavy, but we're going to take all the unused brackets off the dash bar, because that can go back in once we've done what we need to do, and that can be welded back up then, because it's never going to come out again. But we're going to weld some penny washers on there, so then all the wiring, all the modules, everything can all be bolted up, tie wrapped up, underneath the dash, out the way, not rubbing against each other and stuff like that, because that's a massive thing when you start chopping away bits of a car. If you don't put things back properly, you're going to end up with a problem later on. Just trying to think what else as well. The steering wheel, I'm not sure if we're going to change the wheel itself, because I don't think we've got enough room to go for a deep dish like we've got on the Golf. But we're going to put a snap-off steering wheel boss on there, just to give us a little bit more, and an option to take it off if we want to immobilise the car, because these, obviously, they don't lock, they've not got keys, so it's not ideal. So we're going to do that with the steering wheel. And probably, I think it makes sense, Paul, I just thought about it, maybe put like the key inside the steering wheel. If we put key inside the steering wheel, you take the steering wheel off and the car can't move then, can it? Because I think the keys are stashed, I think they're still taped into the middle there, aren't they, or something like that. Yeah, key were just taped together. So we'll do that, brainwave. You saw that happening live, not sure if World shook, but yeah, so we'll probably do something like that. The other thing that we've not got at the minute, but needs to happen before we paint the inside as well, we've got a pedal box coming, because I want to get rid of the servo, which I'm sure everybody knows what a servo looks like, but if you don't, put it up. But basically all that does is when you press a pedal, say you put, it's hard to sort of say exactly, but if you put 20 bar of brake pressure in on a servo-assisted car, you might get 50 bar of brake pressure out. But on a race car, you want to be able to modulate it exactly. What we tend to find with this, especially when it didn't have the ABS on, which is how these were raced before, you'd touch the brakes, you'd get them to lock up, and you had to come all the way off, completely all the way off, to stop the wheels locking. Whereas on a car that's not got a servo, like the Golf with a pedal box, you can just lift off a little bit, the wheels would stop locking, and then you go back on, or you'd come off and then go back on a little bit softer. You'd not get that feel. So we're going to get rid of the servo, put a pedal box in there, and I think we're going to leave the standard accelerator pedal, because there's no point doing anything with that, but we're going to put a brake and a clutch pedal, even though this is going to be DSG, and we'll just put like a rod to fix the clutch pedal and use that as a footrest. And then if we ever did go to manual, because if we have any more grief with the DSGs, we probably will do, then we can do that. The other thing as well, another thing stopping all this happening, we're going to probably do that to Scott's car, but I think we'll do it to this one, just because we know this works now. We're going to get the fuel cell in. So yeah, lots to do. All of it completely and utterly boring. None of it making any faster. But for Paul's sake, all this extra work here is going to mean when we're at the track, he knows the car better, and he knows that it's going to be none of these things that he's done that are causing problems. Because at the minute, we're having the DSG problem, and we found that many broken, open-ended, snipped wires, all sorts of weird stuff, and some earth problems as well, that we can't be sure if it's anything to do with that. So we'll keep plugging away, and then hopefully we get to a point where this can be started again soon, but I'm not sure when that's going to be, so we shall see. So Paul's still working away on the wiring, but we'll get to that in a second. We've basically ripped all the stuff out. I know we talked about the weight of these earlier, and I estimated, and we put a post on Facebook, that we reckon after Christmas this car needs to go on a diet. It's been a bit gutsy over the Christmas period, and I reckon we're going to get about 50 kilos out, and after spending 20 minutes messing about weighing stuff, it pretty much works out to, I'm sure, I'd say, depending how much the servo weighs, because we're taking the servo out, not yet, but we're probably weighing a kilo or two of that, probably bang on 50 kilos. So, got 5.8 kilos in that, 7.8 kilos in that, and the thing that's going in there, I know that only weighs about, I think it's 900 grams, all the stuff that replaces that. We've got, where are we? Dash crap, there's 3 kilos there. In the doors, with what we've just taken out, we've got, where is it? 7.8 kilos. The door cards, they weigh 2.8 kilos each, but then what we're putting back in was about 2.2, so there's only 1.6 kilos coming out from that. Sorry, 1.2 kilos coming out from that. The glass, they're 3.5 kilos each, but then the ones going in are 1.9, so that's only 3.6 kilos, 3.2 kilos total. The wiring, all this wiring here, there's 8.3 kilos of that, and there's pretty much not much else going back in to replace that, I wouldn't have said. The battery, that's 10 kilos. The one that's going in is something like 2.1, so that's about 8 kilos. A little piece of roll cage there, don't look much, but that's nearly just less than a kilo. And I think, yeah, that's it. So with the servo and all that added together, it's going to be just, I reckon there's a couple of obviously the servo and the brake pedal is coming out, and we're putting a pedal box with just 2 master cylinders back in, so there'll definitely be a couple of kilos there. So I think Danny will correct me in the editorial, or Sarah will, that should be 50 kilos. So I think that's pretty good. See, we're already stripped out. If there's any other weight savings we can make, we will do, but they're not going to be massive now anyway. We start hacking stuff to bits to get any more out. So yeah, really happy. We'll see what Paul's been doing now, because it's all, there's a few little things mixed in there that were quite interesting, but we found, this is that pedal wire, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You've chopped, there were some brakes in the original, weren't there? Yeah. Some repairs, so that's why that's been, yeah, that's why that's been took out. What else was there that you saw that were a bit random though, something else? Pretty sure. But I think we've talked about that side of the loom already, haven't we? But this is like the car, this is like the engine bay, but car side, not the engine loom.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there was else really to report, well, they've just literally, everything unused has gone. Yeah. So yeah. Is this an airbag one?
That goes into steering wheel.
Right. Right, so it looks like an airbag connector, but that's the one.
Stuff in it.
Yeah, but we're not, obviously not using that. Yeah. So, yeah. This is like, what do we reckon, Paul? Just doing this with the stripping and everything and checking everything like how the windows worked and everything, you reckon there's like a week by the time you've done this, don't you? Yeah. So, not for the faint-hearted doing this. It's definitely quicker to leave all this in and just tuck it in, hide it. Yeah. So,
I won't sight, I won't mind.
Yeah, exactly. Until it rubs and your gearbox has come up with random faults. Did we see that centre console last time? I don't think we had we? No, I don't think we had. So we'll go around this side. You stay there. So this side's done. It's got the plastic window in. Paul reckons it's got enough preload on this when you shut it that it's not going to go anywhere. But I think at some point we might have to put like a bit of a stay from here to here or something, just a piece of aluminium or something like that. And then Paul's managed to make some door cards for it, which these are probably a little bit more industrial than they need to be. And then we've ended up, the TT handle wouldn't fit, which is a shame, but we've ended up with a Terran rear handle that fits nice, rather than all the just pulling on the end of it a little bit. It never worked. The Ibiza just had a pull cord and everybody used to just rip it off trying to shut the door. I think we've got some, Jake, I think we've got some pull handles on shelf there as well to shut it. So, yeah, we're getting there. lots to do still. Oh, look at the centre cut. That's what I put door for. This is why my brain didn't work. So, Paul, we're going to make the original switchgear under the dash work, but when I sat in the seat, you couldn't quite reach the original switches here. This is what Paul made in the first place. We're going to just add a couple of extra switches for the heated windscreen and stuff like that. Add another brace at the front here, and that solves two problems. The gear knob still fits nice, and then we can get all the switches nearby. And I'd love to make Paul's life easy. I'd love to have got like a PDM like the TCR cars have and have everything, no fuses, no relays. But I think we'd spend more time faffing about with that than we want to. So yeah, this is getting to the point now where a few little fit-ups that we need to do, and then go over to the body shop and upset Alan and tell him to paint it inside again, basically. So. So, a lot's happened. Not all of it's been filmed because Paul's allergic to cameras, I think. But a lot of the stuff that we're getting done was very, very boring, very laborious, and yeah, not too interesting. So, what we've ended up doing here, and it's fixed another problem that we're having. So, as you can see, the ballast plate, it's not bolted down properly, but the ballast plate was fixed to these runners that were here, which is the same as what's on there, but we're keeping them in driver's side. The ballast plates wouldn't fit how we wanted them to fit, so it was easier to take this out and then we can just weld some more pieces of box section across here that then the seat can go on. We should still be able to get the 30 kilos of ballast that we potentially would need. It's probably only going to be 20, but yeah, we shall see. And then the other thing that solved when we took them out, among other things, we found that rattling round. So it looks like somebody's damaged this, which we're holding. This we're holding seat. Were this holding the passenger seat? No, what were it holding? Seat and ballast. Yeah, this were originally holding seat and ballast in when we got the car, and it looks like somebody has tried putting that in there to fix it, and that would just sliding around this. I don't know if you can hear on any videos when we were driving this before, but it sounded like a bag of gravel running around inside car, and it turned out with this and a load of washers and bits of crap that stuck under there. Very happy with that, and that's a bit of extra weight that we didn't know we were going to take out, but we have. So happy for that again. So we're definitely over us 50 kilos. One of the other things Paul's done while they were here, I don't know if it's easy to see, Daniel, you'll get a better picture of it, but these are washers that we bend in the middle, and then you can use this to tie wrap the wiring around. So because the battery's going to be going here as well, which I think he's putting the riv nuts in that shortly, we're having the battery wire tied up separately as well. So yeah, a little bit more welding to do in here, not a lot, a few holes to fill in, a few bits to straighten out. The dash bar's in at the minute, but not fully welded, but that's got little tabs on it, the little washers on to put the tie wraps around to tie the wiring really nice and neat out of the way there as well. What else did he say he'd done? Oh, the other thing that we can't see, but you saw us looking at it earlier, we've lowered the aim dash because it's a really big dash and the steering wheel's quite small. We've lowered it down and moved it back so I can actually see the shift lights, because that was causing me some hassle when I was racing, obviously. Not used to driving a petrol as much. A bit more revs, changing up a gear a little bit early. And if you changed up, you need to change up in these about 6 grand, 6,200, something like that, to get the, from where I could see, the maximum acceleration. But unless you're reading the numbers on the rev counter, it were no good. You want the shift light on, and we could do that. I'd like to put a bigger turbo on and rev it a bit more, but whether that makes it faster, I don't know. Anyway, so that's that. Then the wiring, it's all done now. It's all loom taped up, which we could spend even more time and start stripping these back and twisting them and putting heat shielding on and rear chem and all that sort of stuff, but the looms are pretty good anyway. Not as good as the older cars from what we've seen. Some very questionable things done at the factory. But basically now, there's no crap in there that we don't need. The only thing that we're trying to sort out that's not done at the minute, but we're going to try and get it sorted pretty quickly. Somebody watching this might be able to help us if we're still struggling. But we've got this gearbox here, which this is a TTS gearbox, so it's 4-wheel drive, so we have to convert it to 2-wheel drive. The differential's on its way for it, but putting this in, if you were putting like a Golf R gearbox, stuff like that, you can have a problem with the component protection, which is basically like the immobiliser sort of stuff on these. You've got to have everything from the same car. If not, it's got to be coded in at the dealership and stuff like that, which there's people doing it aftermarket, but how the TCRs work, all that stuff's turned off, and how we want it to work is so that we can have one spare gearbox and it'll work in both cars, a spare ECU and it'll work in both cars. We want to really get rid of the clocks if we can, because at the minute we're going to have this in, which it's not all about the weight. Piece thing. It's not all about the weight, but we've got to put this somewhere now because there's nothing on there that we want to see. We don't need to see any of it, so we're going to tie that up in the dash out of the way for now. But ultimately, I'd like to get rid of that because that's just another potential failure point. Because if that breaks or fails, the engine just don't run. So we don't want to have that. And these gear, that's the main thing I didn't say about this gearbox. The gears in the cars at the minute, because they're a front wheel drive sort of basic spec one, they're like a more of a, I don't know why they do it like this, but they're sort of more comfortable on the motorway. That'll do over 200 mile an hour, which Scott's got the gear ratio somewhere, but it'll do well over 200 mile an hour in 6th gear, which means you're never going to use 6th gear. You only just use 5th gear really on the faster tracks. This gearbox, I think the gear to more like 160 mile an hour top speed, maybe a little bit more, maybe 165 in 6th. The fastest we're potentially going to do on that in Class S spec, we're not going to get over 140 mile an hour, so we'll not get to the top of 6th gear even with that gearbox. So we could probably go for a slightly shorter one. So we're going to swap that in this car, see how much difference it makes, and then we'll swap it in the other car as well. But then the good thing, the gearbox out of these is shorter than the shortest diesel ones, but obviously longer than that. So we'll probably, if we convert this to diesel, we could just leave that longer ratio gearbox in there. So we shall see. We've not quite decided what we're going to do diesel-wise. The engine in these is pretty good anyway. Definitely uses more fuel than the diesel. At the minute, it's not as fast, but the car's not as developed, so that's to be expected. But I'm not sure, looking at the data I've got and what we think we can improve, I don't think we're going to make this as quick as if we put the diesel engine in. But we'll do a fair test when that happens, because we're going to have both at the exact same spec, then one of them is just going to get a diesel engine. But we'll see. We need to get this ready, because we've only got probably another month really of faffing about before we need to be testing this. And then while we're testing this one, building the other one, so we don't want to make any mistakes twice. So we shall see. And if you can help us with the component protection, we think we've got something to sort it, but if that don't work, we need help.